Hey there, I'm Sully, and as always, welcome to the Gun Club. Alrighty, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome, and thanks for joining us for another Thursday evening special. We're going to be talking this evening about a little change of pace. We're going to get into some stuff with shotguns. Now, when I picked the term shotguns, I decided to go with this for a topic. My choice was, kind of based on what I had seen. I've been out to different places, different ranges. I go out, did a couple of presentations in the last year or so with different prepper groups and different community organizations. And there's a lot of push and a lot of stress and a lot of gear towards, okay, the handgun or the everyday carry gun. Hey, great. I'm all about that. The everyday carry gun, the handgun, great, wonderful, reliable. Teach that all day long. The other thing I see when we get into long guns or home guns is everybody focusing on the semi-automatic rifle, largely the AR platform. Hey, it's a great platform. I enjoy it. I work with it a lot. I do a lot of things with it. Different calibers, a lot of versatility with it, a lot of parts available, a lot of things we can do. And it seems to me that everybody's been spending so much time focusing on handguns and rifles that the great American shotgun sort of been left at home, left out of the topic, left out of the discussion. And to me, that's not really the greatest thing, so to speak. The reason I say that largely is because a shotgun can be an incredible home defense tool. It can also be a wonderful thing to have in your weapons locker or your weapons cache should you have supply chain issues or going camping, going out in the woods. A shotgun can be a great tool and you can do a hell of a lot with it. We're live right now, streaming on YouTube and Rumble. We've got a few people lining up in the Rumble group. Going to give a moment or so, let everyone wander on in. Today is August 5th, 2023. I'm coming to you from beautiful upstate South Carolina. We had a nice 80-degree and sunny day outside today. Beautiful day to knock out a little work in the yard, do a little cleanup, maybe get ready for that last wonderful shindig, or get the bonfire pit cleaned up and get ready for a fall fire pit evening. You never know, we may have a few fire pit evenings out here. Nice thing about living in the country. Now, when we get into shotguns as a whole, and we're talking about shotguns, again, we've focused on rifles and handguns. Shotguns have been largely forgotten. When you look at the average shotgun, they're pretty inexpensive for what they bring to the table. I went through and was just looking at prices and scrolling through a couple of different sites for a couple of different local firearms dealers, and you can come up with a decent brand name shotgun and some ammunition for it under $300, pretty much anywhere around South Carolina. Now, other areas, your mileage may vary. We know that, but for $300, you're not going to get a sporting rifle or an AR platform rifle for $300. Not unless Palmetto has one of those amazing sales for, upcoming holidays. Hey, and if they do, I might be there, so let you know. But shotguns, pretty damn inexpensive. Next, they're very, very reliable. Now, the fancier shotguns you get with more bells and whistles, and we'll get into some of the different designs, the semi-auto shotguns, there's, magazine-fed shotguns, all those things. You might have a little bit of reliability issues with depending what you feed it. But the standard old-fashioned 12-gauge pump shotgun, the $200 special, I'll be honest with you. When I first was, in law enforcement close to a million years ago or so it feels, we had shotguns that were in the cars. Now, these shotguns were, secured in the vehicles. They frequently got knocked around a little bit, banged around, kicked around. Um, they would get occasionally pulled out of their mounts, maybe once a week, sometimes maybe twice a week if you got really lucky or someone spilled coffee on it, and get a quick wipe down. Every now and then you'd take it out to the range, put 2 or 3 rounds through it, wipe it down, clean it out, stick it back up in there. These things were workhorses, and they were durable, reliable workhorses. They were nowhere near as temperamental as some of the modern rifles are, some of the other things. I'm not knocking the modern rifles. I'm not saying they're bad or wrong or evil. What I'm saying is there's a hell of a lot of moving parts, and the more moving parts something has, the more moving parts can break. The more precision something is, the more precision it's got to be. Whereas the old 12 gauge shotgun, it didn't have that many moving parts. It wasn't that precision, but boy, that damn thing was reliable. The next thing is when you start getting into, and we'll talk today about different loads and different configurations and different types of ammo, you can use a 12 gauge shotgun, the most common size, but there's different sizes. You can use it for damn near anything. What's that? You've got a black bear in your campsite that you need to chase off? 12 gauge shotgun. You want to go try to down a deer or an elk? 12 gauge shotgun. You want to go after upland waterfowl, or you want to go after varmints for food or harvest the, varmint? 12 gauge shotgun. Someone breaking in the door, coming down the hallway? 12 gauge shotgun. Doing it in an apartment complex where you have to worry about penetrating walls? 12 gauge shotgun. Change out the loads, change out the chokes, change out different things. You've got a hell of a lot of versatility off that $250, $300 platform. We get into, again, the ammo configurations, the actions. Now, again, they can be semi-auto. We can get the old style of pumps, and we'll get into those. When you look at the ammo, the chokes, the designs, you can pretty much get a shotgun that'll do just about anything you want, and 4 or 5 other things that it will do pretty well as well. That's why, if you're looking for something, invest in a shotgun. It's not going to be that much of an investment. You can get some out of it. And again, round out your weapons cache. Now, I'm not going to say that a shotgun is going to compete with an AR at long, long distances. We're talking, 100 meters out. No. But home defense, are we dealing at 100 meters? No, we're dealing at 5 to 10 yards. 10 yards, 30 feet. Is there a place in your house you're going to have to make a shot over 30 feet? No. So would a 12 gauge shotgun? Yeah, probably work. And again, different ammo configurations. You can have that big boy slug coming at them, or you can have, number 2 or 4 bird shot. Why? Because, less likely to go through a wall. You can harvest anything from bear to beaver to turkeys. Great. Now, when we talk about the different actions for a shotgun, there you've got the top right there, the old style pump action. Very, very similar to what we had. Now, that's a nice, pretty stainless model. Again, simple. It loads 4 or 5 rounds up in the bottom tube. And each time you pull the trigger, it fires around. You rack the 4-stock back. It'll eject the old round and load you up another one. The one below it is a bullpup pump shotgun. Now, a bullpup, very simply, is any gun that has the chamber or the firing or ejection area, i.e. back here, where the magazine is, back behind the hand grip. This is designed to make it a little bit shorter, a little bit more portable, a little bit easier to pivot on. Now, would that bullpup be a great gun? Yes. If you had to do something in close quarters, is that bullpup a good weapon? Yes. Is that pump up top a good weapon? Yes. Now, the pump up top is going to be a little bit cheaper than the bullpup is, but they're both great guns and both not super high dollar expensive. Now, you can go from the simple pump action, rack it yourself, the old shh. You can do that and move on to your semi-autos. Now, these, again, a variety of configurations. The top is more of a semi-auto. It's got the box feed magazine coming out of the bottom. Below that, we've got a bullpup with a box magazine. Again, both semi-auto. When you pull the trigger, it cycles itself. It'll strip the old round out, load a new one in out of the magazine. The one on the bottom is also a semi-auto. It, again, will eject the old shell, but instead of having a box magazine, it's got the underside tube, similar to the 12-gauge pump above it, that it will strip out of there and load your next round in. Now, the interesting thing is that one on the bottom, again, the picture came right off the gun store website. Hey, you can get it with the full-size stock or the smaller hand stock. Again, which one you want. Now, it doesn't have the pistol grip that the other two have. When you're getting into this, whatever's comfortable for you, whatever you feel like you like and you fall in love with, or hey, get both of them. Now, some of the older school, you'll see some lever action shotguns out there. This lever action up top, you cycle it. Instead of racking it, you cycle the lever here. Now, that lever from the bottom, again, is going to pull one out of the tube on the underside, load it up in the chamber, give you your next shot. Now, this one, and when you look at the 12-gauge pump up in the beginning, the other nice thing is you can, in the middle of what you're doing, change out what round you're loading next. Because you load closest on the bottom of it up into the chamber, you can say, oh, I've got all buckshot here. Oh, wow, I want to go to a slug load. You load a slug up in the bottom of it, rack it. Guess what? You've now got a slug load in it. Again, gives you a lot more options. Now, these break actions, there's an under over there, and there's also a 12-gauge side-by-side. That's the old double barrel. It's got two barrels. You put two shells in it. It's got either two triggers, and you can fire 1, 2, and then you break it open. Those shells pop out, or you extract them manually, and you put 2 more in. If you're going hunting for game birds or things like that, you want a break action shotgun, there it is. Now, any one of these shotguns will do lots of stuff. And when we say lots of stuff, they come in various gauges. Now, the gauge is the size or the diameter of the barrel. When you look at gauges, the biggest barrel you'll see is a 10 gauge. Not the most common out there, but there's a lot of them. Now, that 10 gauge is 0.780 inches. So 78/100ths of an inch, or 3/4, or a little bit over 3/4 of an inch barrel diameter. That's a pretty dang big gun. Now, the 12 gauge, most common you'll see out there. Below that, it works down to 16 gauge. The higher the number gets, the smaller the diameter. 20 gauges are very common also. We see a lot of those out there. Now, when you talk about a 20 gauge, well, that's not that big. That's not that strong. That's, it's only a 20 gauge. It's 61/100ths of an inch. So a little bit over a ½ inch in size. And if you have a slug load, a solid bore load, not shell, but solid slug, you're talking 3/4 of an ounce of lead coming at them. A .61 caliber slug of lead coming out of a barrel. Now, again, it's not going to have the rifled distance performance that you'd have from an AR or a sporting rifle or an AK. But in close quarters, a 61 caliber slug of lead that weighs 3/4 of an ounce coming at somebody is going to have some serious stopping power. Hell, the 12 gauge, I believe they're 1 ounce or 1/8 ounce of lead on their slug loads. Again, immense stopping power. This is stuff, the 12 gauge with a slug load, that's what they recommend for, if you're dealing with a bear or things like that. So what it will do, to a human being in a self-defense situation, pretty good. May have a little penetration issue there, so, again, we can change this out. And that's the nice thing about different loads, one gun does a hell of a lot of different things. We come all the way down, and the last one on the end is a 36 gauge. It's also known as a 410. If you hear people talk about a 410 shotgun, that is that. That's 0.410 inches, or 41 100ths of an inch. So, okay, about the same size as a 40 caliber. But again, you can get it with shell shots, you can get it with slugs, you get different things in this 410 with the full length long arm barrel. So, again, a lot of versatility, a lot of firepower. I've had friends of mine who, back during the Summer of Love, they were looking. Gentleman was, or someone was looking to get one for the wife, and the wife is not much of a gun person. And we had talked about an AR, or me teaching her with an AR, or doing this, or going out to the range, or what we were going to do. And, she chirped up and she said, "Why can't I just get an old shotgun like I used to shoot with my grandfather?" Looked at her and said, "What kind of shotgun?" She said, "Well, I don't know. You pulled the trigger and then you slam the thing back and forth." I said, "Okay, pump shotgun." Yeah. We went out and we got a great deal on a pump shotgun at our local range, PSI. And we ended up getting the deal so much, they got two of them. Now, it wasn't like his and hers kind of thing. It was more or less like they got one for her to keep behind the bedroom door at home and one for her to keep in her office at work. 20 gauge shotguns loaded with slug loads that was shooting 3/4 of an ounce slugs of lead at something. Folks, anybody who broke into that house, there was some serious stopping power. Now, again, I'm not dogging out rifles or dogging out anything else. What I am saying is round out the versatility of this. Because the nice thing is, had they needed in an emergent situation to go out and harvest game or do something else, could they have gotten it with different size shots, different size pellets? Could they swap out that slug load for buckshot, something else? Yeah, very, very easily. So that kind of stuff is why the shotgun is so blasted versatile. I'll tell you, if you've got a great AR that you like, let's say it's 223 5.56, great. I've got them. I love them. If I've got to deal with home defense, something, I love my 30-round mag. I know with these, I'd only get about 5-6 rounds. Okay, fine, whatever. But if I'm trying to harvest game with an AR, I got news for you. If you're trying to get after some kind of little ground critter or prairie dog or squirrel or something like that, folks, you can have a bad day. There ain't going to be nothing left. And you know what? Trying to hit any kind of game bird or something with a single shot, it's going to be kind of rough. Nice pattern shot, come out much easier. And again, it's easier on the meat that you're trying to kill too. So again, stuff hits the fan, kind of nice because you've got one gun that can go for everything from, bear to pigeons. Just depends what you load it for. Again, highly reliable one too. And easy to use and easy for anyone in the family to use. Again, stuff hits the fan. You've got to go out. You're going out hunting or gathering or whatever else, and you're worried about the wife and kids at home. Simple 12 gauge shotgun or 20 gauge shotgun. Anyone who comes through that door, wifey's going to have, a little bit of word of prayer with them. Now, I've talked about different shots and different size shots. Well, much like we have different size barrels, and the bigger the number gets, the smaller the barrel gets, we have different size pellets or shots that come out of these shotguns. Now, I got this picture offline, and this is just a quick sampling. On the far right-hand side, you've got a 12 gauge slug. Now that slug load is one single slag of lead. Again, with a 20 gauge, it's 3/4 of an ounce. With 12 gauge, you're talking a full ounce and an eighth, depending on the length of the shell. It will definitely do some damage. In case you have to go after a bad guy who's hiding behind the refrigerator. Even if he's hiding behind a car door, it'll get through. As you work across, there's different size there. Each shell, the more pellets it has, the bigger the pellets, the fewer it has. The smaller the pellets, the more it's going to have. And we can follow this all the way through. And That again is just a quick sampling of what there is out there. In a 12 gauge configuration, just off the top of my head here, if you've got triple aught buckshot, which is one of the biggest pellets they use, triple aught buck, you're getting like 6 pellets. Okay, each one's about the size of a 38 caliber bullet. If you're in double aught buckshot, well, then we're getting about 8 pellets. Again, about the size each one of a 38 caliber bullet. Now, if you get single aught buckshot, that's a little bit small. It's about the size of a 32 caliber, but you get 9 of them in one trigger pull. So we go all the way down here. When you get into some of the stuff, it looks like about a number 7 on the end there on the far left. You get about 200 pellets of those little fine grained sand looking pellets. So you're going to get quite a spray of them. Now, would that be a self-defense round? No. But if you're trying to down a pigeon or you're trying to down a squirrel, 5, 7 shots, that'd be a good size. But if all of a sudden a deer comes out of the woods and you want to go for something bigger, just throw a couple of double aught or triple aught buckshot in it. Go with that. Same gun. You can get, again, there's pretty much an endless array, and you'll find what you like, what works well for you, what works well in whatever firearm you have. But, again, if you have a 12 gauge shotgun, look over what loads do you have in stock right now? What ammos do you have in stock? Well, I've got 12 gauge, and I've got piles of slug and double aught buck. Well, that's great. Your defensive side is pretty well good. But if you had to take small game with it or had to take flying critters with it, you might want something in that number 7, number 5 range, also. It's sort of like having different tires, different snow tires or mud tires or regular radials for your vehicle. You've got a lot of versatility, and just by getting different loads, you can get into that more. The next thing we look at with shotguns is, because it is, well, a slug is a single shot, but anything else has a spread to it. And you learn about different shotguns will have different spread based on what type of round you're using, the length of the barrel, the load. You can pattern these things in and go way down the line with it. But at the simplest level, and for what we're doing tonight, that's what we're really living with, is the simplest level. You've got what we call chokes. Now, a choke is something that goes into the end of the barrel. You get them for the shotgun. That you may come with it. You may be able to get them as an accessory. And each one of those chokes tends to choke it down a little bit, tends to make it a little bit smaller at the end. The whole concept of a choke is to help tighten down the shot or to pattern the shot more effectively. So when you look at different chokes, it's all kinds of names you'll hear about them. You'll hear cylinder choke. Cylinder choke is basically just the way the rifle, where the barrel is. That's the way you get. You can get improved cylinder chokes, improved chokes, modified, improved, modified, full choke, and each different name. You can look it up depending on how it cuts it down. Again, depending on each choke tube that screws into the gun is going to change how much it chokes it down. Now, to give you a quick idea, just using cylinder choke or no choke at all, you're going to get about, at 10 yards, with a 12 gauge shotgun, about a 19-inch pattern. Now, a 19-inch pattern is a pretty good spray. But if you want it to clamp down a little bit more, let's say you put in a modified choke. It's going to take that 19-inch pattern, it's going to drop it to about 12 inches. You're going to get a lot more in that 12-inch pattern. Then you may get one pellet that flies, but one out of, 10 or 20 pellets. You can get into full choke. It's going to take it from 12-inch pattern down to a 9-inch pattern. It's going to pull it down more. I strongly recommend, if you've got a good shotgun that will accept choke tubes, look at investing in a set of choke tubes. If you don't have them, hey, if you can't, well, if your gun won't take it, that's one But if it will, that is one of those things of wow, little, fairly inexpensive expenditure, comes in a little case, and those choke tubes now let that one gun do so much more. If you're trying to shoot at something that's up in the air, let's face it, you want to keep your shot pattern together, especially if you're using like a bird shot, a 7.5. So now what are you going to do? Oh, we can put full choke on that. We're going to keep more centrally located. Yeah, but maybe I'll go modified choke, give it a little bit more spray. And you can work with that, and you can become familiar with that weapon and say, okay, with this kind of load, with this kind of choke, this is what the patterning looks like. Or if I change it over to this kind of choke, it'll look like this. Okay. That's, really taking and getting the most out of a very inexpensive gun. Add the choke tubes, get the alternate loads. I know at one point you could go into almost any hunting supply place and you were getting, boxes of 25, different kinds of shells, different flavors of, number 4, number 7, shells. You get boxes of 25 of them and you get them pretty inexpensive. That, some choke tubes, you've taken your 12 gauge pump, you've expanded its capabilities so far beyond it. If you don't have a shotgun, you're looking to get into it. Simple and reliable. Go simple and reliable. It doesn't have to be fancy. No, I've got and have had, over the years, a couple of fancy shotguns and semi-autos and magazine fed and everything else. Yeah. I've also still got my good old pump shotgun from, probably, I'd guess probably about 1998, 97, somewhere in there. 12 gauge Mossberg pump. Not the fanciest, not the nicest. Gotten beat up a few times. It's sat in the floor of a patrol car plenty of nights. It's sat in the bottom of a truck of a patrol car plenty of nights. And you know what? It still comes out every now and then, gets wiped down lovingly, lubed up, greased up, and taken out to the range. It still works like a charm. And it cost me probably $150 back then. If I wanted to replace it today, it'd probably be about $250. Just that cheap Mossberg 12 gauge pump. And Mossberg's a decent name. But it doesn't have to be a $3,600 Benelli or anything, glory be. No. Simple 12 gauge pump shotgun. Now, as we get into part 2 of this, we'll talk more about some of the specifics of what size shots work best for what size critters. We'll talk a little bit more about how to work on patterning it in and working with chokes. But I really wanted to get in part 1 and just really say, look, everyone knows all about ARs. They get all the glory. They're at the front page. I mean, the AR is the glory be gun. Hey, not saying it's not trying to take anything away from it. But I will say that if someone's coming down the hallway, you rack the 12 gauge shotgun and let a round fly, double aught buck, they're getting the entire 6-shooter of a 38 in one shot. And I promise you it's going to make them reconsider their life choices. And if that doesn't, the ounce of lead coming in the slug behind it, I don't care if they're wearing body armor. They are going to be hating their life choices. It's personal defense. It's safety. It is what it is. Folks, I appreciate it. Trying to, again, get these a little bit more on point, on topic, and get it done on time. If you have any questions, please, by all means, drop me an email. It's mike.southeastdefense@gmail.com. Check out the rest of our Rumble library. We're big supporters of Rumble here at the Gun Club. Why? Because Rumble will let me talk about this stuff with you. Rumble says, hey, look, it's free speech. In my opinion, educating people on firearm safety, firearms knowledge, providing this stuff is something we need to be doing. And Rumble isn't afraid to let me talk about it. So, folks, you have a wonderful day. Please be smart, be safe. Later. Bye.